Okay, our next one. I don't want to guess what it is. It says, reshaping your cooking and coffee. I have no idea what that means. So instead of talking about what's coming up, let me introduce who are going to do it, and then let's see how it goes. So this is a fireside chat, as it says. The host of the fireside chat is Ayan Mukerji. He's the CEO of Infogain. He's also our gold sponsors. And his guest speaker is Tal Ball, CTO of Breville. So let me give a quick introduction of Ayan and Infogain. Ayan is the CEO of Infogain, a digital and platform engineering company headquartered in Silicon Valley. He's also an IIT alumni from IIT Kharagpur, as I am. He did his BS in electrical engineering in 1985, and then his MBA from IIM Calcutta. Since joining Infogain 4 years ago, Ayan and the team have led Infogain's transformation to a human-centered digital platform company. I needed to get this right. Tripling its revenue and profitability over this period. Infogain serves several Fortune 500 and multi-billion-dollar companies, transforming the way they do business. Customer centricity is at the core to how Infogain delivers digital services. Here's a quick video, just for a quick overview of Infogain. Can we have the video, please?
Embrace perpetual beta. Acceleration is now constant. Infogain designs and builds intelligent platforms that unlock meaningful experiences, enabling authentic interactions between our customers and their end users.
We build future-ready platforms that enable customers to face business uncertainties with confidence and adapt to change with agility.
We enable customers to make smarter decisions faster and solve problems in new ways. This lets them move ahead of their competitors exponentially faster.
Okay. Ayan, the stage is yours.
Hi. Opportunity to speak to all of you. You know, we are way upstream. We are going to talk about artificial intelligence, core technologies, telecommunications, but we build platforms. And as you saw, and you heard the word before, human-centered, right? Previous speakers spoke about the heart. Heart is always a part of the human, right? And so we help our customers respond to their business needs. How do we keep them agile? And we have one of our customers with us today, Tal. Anyway, you may as well come up on stage. Breville, he's the Chief Technology Officer of Breville. But before I get to the fireside chat, let me take a couple of examples, two really big examples. We've heard of iRobot, right? Amazon bought iRobot for almost $1.7 or $1.8 billion. The question is, why did they buy iRobot? Yes, people say that, oh, they want to snoop around the house. Great, but not really, right? The product, the iRobot, is backed by a platform, right? So there is a whole intelligent, it's called the Vision AI platform, that runs these little devices that go all over the house. They are AI trained, they are voice enabled, right? And there are 20 million of these devices all around the world doing their jobs. So in their database, they have over 40 million objects that they can recognize, that they're trained to go around. So the power of the iRobot is driven through the platform. Let's take another example, Roku. All of you have heard about Roku, right? And Roku, and over the last few years, what Roku has done is they have brought together all the different channels, right? Netflix, Hulu, Apple TV, all of that are all available together. And there are over 300 such channels, and what I call them as a platform of platforms. So if you look at your home, right? All of you spend a lot of time in your house. And a quick question, how much of your time do you spend watching TVs, right? And the answer is 180 minutes, roughly 3 hours a day. Then the question next is, how much, and Tal, you'll be interested to answer this maybe, how much of your time do you spend on cooking, right, every day? And it's probably about 44 or 45 minutes a day. And then cleaning, you spend an hour cleaning. So if you spend 5 hours a day watching TV, cooking and cleaning, I just wonder when we have time to do any other work. But anyway, the question is, these things affect us, right? And today, here's the third example, the battle for the house, right, in your kitchen. And we have Breville. Now, Breville was made in 1932, almost 90 years ago. And they have been the global pioneer in innovation. So, but before that, why don't we play a little clip and see what Breville is all about? And so, to bring to life the session topic, let me introduce Tal, the Chief Technology Officer. Tal has joined us from Vancouver. He flew in today, and he has been at the helm. He joined Breville 5 years ago, and he is at the helm of truly transforming the products that Breville sells. You got a sense of the products, the ovens, inside the kitchen, the small appliances, and the ovens, and the coffee machines. So his objective and his team's objective is to bring innovative products to the world and to our homes. Founded in 1932, over the last 70 years, Breville is an extremely well-known name. And over the years, they are building these products. And Tal's strategy is, how do we directly sell experience to the consumers and customers? So without further ado, Tal, let's get to the first question, and we'll be sitting down. I hope these mics work. So my first question to Tal, to you is, since we are talking about platforms, right, how are you, or how is Breville leveraging these platforms to offer meaningful experiences to your consumers?
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I would say that at least 2/3 of all of the value that's been created over the course of my career has been in close collaboration with Indian entrepreneurs and engineers and professionals. So I feel like I owe this room a debt of gratitude that I can never repay. So thank you very much. So in terms of the platform journey and the experiences that we've been working on for our consumers, when we think about our consumers, a lot of the people that are interested in our products fall into a couple of categories. There's what we call the time-poor gourmet, and these are folks that really want to create delicious, nutritional meals for their family, like, for example, in the middle of the week when everybody is very busy, and so how do they do that well? And then we also work with the master chefs, which are typically the people on the weekends that are putting together the dinner parties and those kinds of things. And so we look at the experience that those types of consumers are trying to create, and we ask ourselves, how can we help them do that better and get more perfect food moments on the other side on a more reliable basis? And as I mentioned, we've been in the business of making the hardware component of that for a really long time, and Breville has been a leader in innovation in that space for decades, and certainly way longer than I've been around. But what we've been doing lately as looking at opportunities to add digital capabilities to that story so that we can help consumers, first of all, educate themselves when they're thinking about what they might want to add to their kitchen, have the kind of information they need to pick the right ingredients with recipe content and so on, and then ultimately actually orchestrate the results so that at the end of it all, you know, you can end up with this thing called dinner that everybody is really happy about. And so in the course of looking at how to do that and to introduce digital technology and sort of help with the digital transformation that we've been going through, we organized, starting a few years ago, a series of 4 platforms that we've now built the foundations of and deployed around the world. And so first was the business platform, which is probably the least exciting part, but it's the fundamental backbone of, you know, running the transactions in the company. And we managed to get the entire global organization on a single instance of one ERP system, all at the same time, which I know is a dream that many of you on that side of the world, you know, in terms of the classic IT stuff, might have had from time to time. We actually pulled that off as sort of a foundational element. But then we also added a digital platform, which is all of our web and e-commerce experience stuff. But instead of just creating, you know, a mundane sort of store, we wanted to enrich the experience with all sorts of content to help people along the way understand more about what their options were and what they were looking to do. And so we built that platform, deployed it in dozens of countries, and rolled it out around the world and are continuing to develop it. And we've worked really closely with the Infogain team on building those capabilities across the world. Then we have what we call an experience platform, and I think we'll look at an example of that later, which has to do with connected cooking and the experience around that and why it matters. It was really important to us to not just, you know, stick a Wi-Fi chip in a piece of hardware and call it connected. We wanted to think about why should it be connected, what would that actually change from a consumer standpoint, and why would it matter? And so we tried to pick use cases that would really illustrate what that was all about. And then finally there's an analytics and data science platform that we've created to take advantage of the information that we're learning in order to accelerate our ability to bring innovative solutions to the customers. And so those 4 platforms, based fundamentally on the idea of how can we do more for that end-to-end experience for consumers, is what we've been up to in the last few years.
By the way, folks, we have a Breville machine that we are giving away. It's a coffee machine. So if you go to our booth and write your name there, you might qualify for winning this machine. So talking about Breville coffee machines, and this is the question I've been dying to ask him, is Breville in the business of making good coffee machines, or do you make good coffee?
Well, it's an excellent question, and certainly we put a huge amount of technology into the machines themselves. There's a bunch of elements that are required to actually produce that coffee result on the other side, having to do with specific profiles of temperature and pressure and dose size, and even down to the diameter of the little bubbles that are in the milk when you're making the latte. It turns out that there's a range of microns of the bubble diameter that you have to be within in order to get that texture that you really identify with cafe quality coffee. And we're trying to help people achieve that at home. And so the first was the machine, being able to embody all of that sort of physics and chemistry in a box with engineering around it so that a consumer could push a button. And then more recently, we've been looking at the rest of that journey. And so we've launched a new service called beans.com with a Z that helps connect premium coffee roasters in various countries to the consumers that are using those machines. Because if you're really trying to achieve that result of cafe quality coffee at home, that's obviously a fundamental part of it. And so we're getting closer and closer to providing that whole end-to-end experience. I think a lot of us have studied things like Crossing the Chasm and the whole product ideas of people like Jeffrey Moore and so on. Well, this is the kind of path we're on around solution thinking and solving the whole problem for the consumer to end up with that outcome. And so our programs are generally about moving further in that direction.
So are you saying that just because you measure the pressure, the temperature, and the bubbles, the Breville coffee is better than Starbucks or Peet's? And we should, instead of going to Starbucks, we should buy a coffee machine?
Absolutely.
So by the way, so if you use an espresso machine, and I'm sure many of you have, we've just started using it. It's really good, and but it also changes your morning conversation with your wife. Previously, we used to wake up and say, "How are you, dear? What are you going to do this morning?" But nowadays, we wake up and say, "By the way, which size of coffee are you going to have?" And we have a 5-minute discussion on, do we want an espresso or do we want a 7.7 ounce? So there's so many choices. I thought you should know that, right? So it's extremely interesting. So my question is, next question leading on is, it's a competitive world, right? There are different products, different competitors, and different forms of competition. How are you using this technology to win in the marketplace?
Well, when we think about this idea of how to deliver that whole end-to-end value with the consumer, that's not typical of the way traditional companies in the small kitchen appliance space have thought. So if you think about that space, first of all, it's not a very big space. It's less than $100 billion worldwide for the entire market segment, maybe 60 billion. And so it's typically been dominated by companies that were okay to have very long product life cycles because you can sell the same product for a long time. And fundamentally, you don't buy a new toaster every year the way you might buy a new cell phone. And so the pace of innovation has typically been slow, and it's been all about the retail shelf. How do you get more space on the retail shelf? And as long as you could defend that position and everybody kind of stuck to their lanes, nothing changes very much in that industry space. But we've kind of taken the opposite view on that, which is forget about that part. I mean, the shelf space is very important. Our retail partners are very important. But the consumer is what we're really all about. That's the group that we're trying to serve. And so the idea of reaching across that shelf and surrounding the consumer with a much broader range of content and capabilities and service so that they can get closer to their outcome is just different thinking compared to what the other players in the space are doing. And so, for example, in the last several years, as we've been accelerating our investment in that space, we've together built a software development organization that has about 200 people in it. Well, I don't believe there are any other competitors in our space that have 200 people developing software for their consumers. And so the challenge now is to make that count. And so, that's what we're up to.
So little did we know that a few years ago that a coffee or a food products company would invest so much into future technology to offer better experiences. But when I saw his ads, and you'll see some of his clips, the question I had for him is, when you see a rotisserie chicken being cooked, and then you look at a Breville coffee, chicken and coffee, they really don't get together very well, right? So I didn't get that bit. So my question for you, and I'm going to put you on a spot here, is, do your ovens make medu vada and coffee, right, together, equally well as a rotisserie chicken? If you know what a medu vada is. So how do we explain what a medu vada is? It is what? It's made out of dal, and it's semi-fried, and it's like a, maybe air-fried.
Yeah, well, I have enjoyed those during a bunch of my trips to Bengaluru, and I'm curious to try it out in the air fry mode in the oven to see if that result can be produced. I have a feeling we might be better off, at least from a taste standpoint, to stick with the deep fry method. But maybe we'd all live longer and get to eat more of them if we did it with the air fryer. We'll see.
So before we move to little of artificial intelligence and all of that, I had a question for the audience. And I'm not sure how we'll get the feedback, but you can just yell out. Do you know how many types of beans, if you look at coffee worldwide, I didn't know this before I was preparing for this chat. And I will admit, I had no idea. How many types of basic coffee beans are there in the world today? Yeah, there are thousands and thousands of varieties and seeds. But if you go back and look at just the basic varieties, how many varieties are there? Any answer? You can just anybody can shout it out. I see 2. Well, you're 50% right. So there are only 4. I didn't know that there were 4 beans. So you're almost there, right? And just for general knowledge, I'll read it out. You've heard of Arabica, Robusta, and there are 2 more, which are the 2 you're referring to, I'm sure. There is Liberica and Exlexa. So there are 4 basic types of coffee beans, out of which the industry is a $100 billion industry today. Anyway, that's amazing. It's a little piece of trivia for all of us. Now moving to artificial intelligence and personalization. Are you investing in it? Is it of practical use? Is it a competitive differentiator? Is it helping you sell better? And what sort of technologies are you using?
Well, it's an area that's extremely important to us in the programs that I was just describing. So if you think about, for example, the innovation cycle, and you ask yourself, so what are the opportunities to use AI to accelerate innovation? And if we look at sort of the way we've historically done innovation in the kitchen, we actually have been pretty serious about it. We go into people's homes, we cook with them, we watch kind of what they're doing, help identify challenges that they're facing in the process of doing that, and we collect up those challenges. And then we go off and work with top chefs on the professional side around the world that are specialists in whatever the area is we're focusing on at any given time, or master baristas in the case of coffee and so on. And then we look at how they do it. And then we analyze what they're actually doing from a physics and chemistry standpoint. And then we go back into the shop and we engineer solutions that produce that same set of chemistry and physics in a box with an engineered solution wrapped around it, and we give the consumer a nice interface to be able to get at that capability without having done the 10,000 hours of training that the chef had in order to produce that result. And that's beautiful, and it's worked really well for a long time, except that it takes a long time to get a cycle of that done. It might take us in that world, call it 3 to 5 years to get a product to market. But in the world that we're going through now, where there's digital transformation, you've seen the result of that in other industries that we've been part of. It accelerates this product cycle fairly dramatically as the information in the industry starts to become digital. And so as we think about how that applies in this case, if we can put machines in consumers' homes that can learn as they're interacting with them how to improve that result, we don't have to wait 5 years for them to get a better performance than they got the day before. They can have better performance the next day or the next month as we push updates to those products out into the wild in their homes. And so fundamentally, AI is helping us accelerate innovation, both in terms of that process that I was just describing, and also by enabling us to analyze more consistently the data we're getting back from those platforms, looking at the capabilities of the sensors and how they're using them in the kitchen, and what kind of paths they take through our websites, and all of those kinds of things. We know a lot more than we would have ever known if the relationship with the consumer was on the other side of some retail shelf somewhere, which the retail channel will continue to be vitally important to us. We're doing this in partnership with our ecosystem and not, instead of, but getting that connection with the data and the AI to the consumer is fundamental to the journey that we're on.
So I'm sure you're looking at technologies that are in the future and cutting-edge technologies. Do you have any examples that you can share with us on how you're using state-of-the-art technology to offer better experiences?
Well, the IoT platform that we just released the first product on a few months ago is a cutting-edge piece of technology. It's based on all the latest and greatest stuff out there. It's built on Amazon AWS IoT Core, for example, has a React Native app associated with it, a really cool content management system underneath it. And you know, there's a lot of that stuff that we've been really working hard on in the last few years that is now coming into the market. And then we have some additional technologies that are back in the lab that are working their way through there. But I think that you'll see things that will be able to deliver the result faster, for example, for these time poor gourmets that we're trying to serve. So one of the product lines, for example, that we have is this product called Sous Vide, which is, it's an immersion circulator. You put in a pot of water. There's a bunch of those products out on the market in general, and it heats to a very precise temperature, and it enables you to cook very precision dishes that are based on controlling the temperature very precisely, and it's not very fussy from a timing standpoint. So for example, if you have something that you want to have ready in an hour, you don't have to stand there and fuss over it. But if you want to go more quickly, how do you actually do that? So we have some turbo technology coming that can take a process that uses sous vide that would normally take an hour and do it in half an hour and have the same food outcome. And it uses some really cool math to pull that off. It's almost like an orbital mechanics problem, because if you think about it, there's a target temperature you're trying to get the food to, there's a temperature of the bath, and the food sort of follows this sort of exponential curve, logarithmic curve to get up to that target temperature normally. And the idea is you never want to let the bath get above the target. But what if instead you could shoot the bath temperature up a lot higher and let the food start to catch up, and then you start dropping the bath temperature just so that they meet when those two curves converge, kind of like you're doing a lunar orbit injection kind of thing. So literally we're bringing that kind of math to the kitchen in order to get to the same result in half the time, just for that example. And so that one is coming out soon. It's a little bit of a nerdy example, but I figured I was among friends on that one.
Can you just repeat that? So that sounded really interesting. So did you want to play a clip, or is that?
Let's
play a little clip.
this one is about an oven, so it's not the one I just described. It's about the IoT side.
Yeah, sure.
Introducing the Joule Oven with Autopilot, new from Breville. Autopilot knows what to do, so you can do this while it's doing this.
Wow!
It was all him.
Nail it first time, every time. Experience the confidence of cooking with Joule.
Just a little bit of a teaser to describe that whole end-to-end thing that I was describing about the new connected oven. That, you know, it's amazing, as you all well know, it's amazing how much work goes into something so that it can be simple on the other side. Simple is hard, but we're pretty proud of that one.
Well, thank you very much. I hope you folks have enjoyed this discussion, and we'll be around and look forward to catching up. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.